Honorable Minister of Education for his letter of commendation, and I'm also grateful to Honorable Governor of Rajasthan, Shri Kalraj Mishra, for releasing this book at the Raj Bhavan. I wish I could have attended the session today, but prior commitments have kept me away. All the best to Urvashi, the principal of the Palace School, Ms. Apra Kuchhal, for the discussion today. So at this junction, I request the author to please unveil the book. Yes. The Camel with a Japi. This is a beautiful illustrated narrative of Assam and Rajasthan, and as we all know that this book is under the initiative of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, and this is a message and this is an initiative very close to the Prime Minister Shri Dharmendra Modi ji, and through this initiative he has paired states and union territories so that there is a feeling of mutual understanding, and through various measures like art, culture, music, literature, paintings, and many more things, the children, the students understand what it is that keeps us similar, what it is that gives a message, a broader message of unity in diversity. Many, many congratulations, Urvashi. So
thank you.
We begin with the very obvious question. Why a book? Why a book? The Camel with a Japi. What was the thought process behind it?
Interesting question, Apra. The whole thing started during the pandemic. It was 2020, and therein CBSE suddenly drops this project on all the schools across India that you have to do an art integrated learning project according to Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat paired states. So Rajasthan was paired with Assam. And like all schools all across the country, even we had to tell our students to get going and integrate art. That's whether it is visual arts or performing arts need to be integrated while collating the information. So the task was given to the students and they started and they did a brilliant job. And the amount of information that came out from that research was phenomenal. So what they found for Rajasthan and what they found for Assam. So while going through the research, I realized that this shouldn't go waste. I mean, it's just a handful of students and so many of us don't know anything about our country. So why not just put the whole thing together in the form of a story?
Oh, wonderful. I think, yes, it's a very interesting idea because many, so many facts and information, it's present on the internet and you Google it and it's right there. But what an interesting way, storytelling. I think storytelling has been a very interesting and a very important feature. And that is how a lot of messages have, gone forward. Are there any real life characters added to this book?
Not really, but yes, there is one. So in this book, we have two French faculty members who are visiting the school because they need to strike up a partnership with the school, one in Rajasthan and one in Assam. So we've actually had this French teacher visit us, and her name is Gaidik. So this character of Gaidik in the book is inspired from real life Gaidik.
Oh, wonderful. Also, I hear that, a lot of students have put in a lot of hard work behind it. So how did you plan the research work of this book? How much time did it take? And did you really travel to Assam?
I wish I could have. But as I said, this book came up during the pandemic and during the lockdowns. So it was just not possible to travel. So that made it even more interesting and more challenging. So the students really worked hard, and the only source of information we had was the internet. It was, I think we all know the pandemic has proved that the internet has been a boon. Otherwise, the whole world would have come to a standstill. So here we had the internet with us, and that's what the students used. it's the students, not only the students who did a lot of research, even the teachers did a lot of research, and I also did a lot of research. So all that was collated. And it took us about 4 to 5 months to get the draft of the first story, after which the post-writing work started.
So how much time in total?
I guess 4 or 5 months to do the written work. And the art department also swung into action, and they've made some beautiful illustrations.
You know, it's very interesting, this book, when you go through it. And I think each and every child, you know, should go through it, because it's very interesting the way Urvashi has added touches. You know, she's integrated entire range of subjects, you know, from civics to geography to maths to everything. So Urvashi, what was the idea behind integrating so many subjects with this subject?
So this started as an art integrated learning project. And when the work started, I had Sandeep sir. He is a mentor to me and to all our schools and to so many schools all across the country. So he suggested that it would be a good idea to map the story with the objectives and learning outcomes of NCRT. So that's when we decided that that would actually make it into a good educational document. And so then our research got a new turn. So instead of just focusing on the cultural aspect, we also started getting into the historical aspect, the geographical aspect, economics, biodiversity, climate change. And I mean, you name it. And it was such an interesting journey, because even the teachers, they found it, they really worked hard to map the book as per the NCRT objectives. But they found it was not a tough task. It was difficult, but not impossible. And we found it did map with so many different subjects, which proved that teaching through an interdisciplinary approach, that is what NEP 2020 requires, is not a difficult task. And I think this is what the future is all about.
Yes, absolutely. The new education policy, the way it is integrating so many different subjects, it's so wonderful that, you know, at one point of place, you know, they talk about, they relate it to geography. At the other instance, you know, Urvashi talks about civics, gender types, and, you know, gender stereotypes. And at one place, you know, she's talking about mathematics, you know, and how softly that kind of an integration has been done, very frankly. I also hear that there's a supplementary book going to be coming very soon, which is going to be having case-based competency questions to it. So tell us more about that.
Right. So the next task that Sandeep sir gave us was to frame competency-based questions, because this is what CBSE is now heading for. There's a complete change in the way examinations are going to be held. So once again, we got together, the teachers, myself, and we racked our brains as to how we can take out these questions from the text. And believe me, we were able to integrate at least 12 subjects from this one literary text. And the teachers were able to make more than 60 questions out of it, with subjects ranging from English to business studies and economics and accountancy. So, and it was a pleasant surprise as the work grew. So it turned out to be a comprehensive educational document.
Absolutely. 12 different subjects is a lot of hard work. I think, you know, it's really a lot of hard work. How did you keep your story moving? You know, at one instance, you know, there is I mean, I would not want to talk about it. I'd let Urvashi talk about how did you keep the story moving?
Well, yes. You know, the most interesting part for me while writing the book was that I was on a journey along with the characters. So we had framed an itinerary as to where they would go from Jaipur, how they would go to Jodhpur, en route it would be Sambar. So a complete itinerary had been made, and I felt while writing, I was on a journey with them. So while doing the writing, I realized this is just not happening. It's turning out into a boring travelogue, and we need
writer's block?
A writer's block didn't come, fortunately. But I realized we need a conflict, you know, to get story going, you need a conflict. So the conflict has to be both inner and an outer conflict. So that's what we developed. So to keep the story going, we had additional characters come in, and we even had something like a kidnapping talked about in the book.
Yes,
So I would like to
yes.
talk more about it, but that's what kept the interest factor on.
I think yes, that really keeps you going. And in the last chapter, you show beautiful integration of India and France. Um, do we have a sequel? I would ask, or uh, what was the deeper meaning behind that kind of an integration?
Yes, the sequel is on its way. So
Oh my God, she said that a sequel is on its way.
yeah, the sequel is on its way. But yes, so when we were talking about Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, so we also have our culture which tells us about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This whole world is a family. So since we had our French guests who had come here to travel and to know more about Rajasthan and Assam, I said, why not bring in the international aspect to make the whole world a community? And that's when to integrate it, there is a moment in which, like if you see the cover page, it has symbolic characters of intermingling of cultures of both Assam and Rajasthan. So we have the camel, which symbolizes Rajasthan, and we have the camel wearing a japi,
A
that
japi.
typical big hat that is worn by the Assamese people. And people who are not from Assam, when we talk of Assam, the first, at least for me, the first visual that comes to me is people working in the tea gardens and those big hats, you know? So very symbolic. And so what is symbolic of France? Eiffel Tower. So that has been integrated towards the end.
How wonderful is that? Tell us more about the most interesting chapter, a chapter that's very close to your heart from this book.
Uh, the most interesting chapter for me was the story of Indian chai.
That's a wonderful chapter. I love that chapter, actually.
Yes, because in that we have actually spoken about how the Indian states also have got other names, you know, like why the story talks about why Jaipur is the pink city. It also talks about the fact that if Udaipur is the Venice of India, then Assam also has a Switzerland, you know, and it also has that. So we've talked about that, and also we've talked about why Tezpur is called the bloody city in India, and it has a beautiful legend behind it, which is also going back to our legends going back right up till the times of Banasur and Lord Krishna. And it also talks about in depth about actually the story of Indian chai, how tea came about to be grown in India, and what is the journey of that tea leaf and how it reaches the consumers is what is talked about. I also talked about a very, very lesser known part of India called the Umswai Valley, which is a very beautiful part, and talks about an ancient tribe which is supposed to be nearly 2,000 years old, and the traditions that that tribe follows. So that chapter is very close to my heart.
Tell me, Urvashi, you did not get a chance to travel to Assam. How did you, the information you collected, how was it checked? And, how did it got kind of a confirmation that the information you were using was correct? Did you take help from any teachers or any people from Assam?
As I said, the internet was what we basically relied on. Being from Rajasthan, we are also privy to a lot of oral traditions of Rajasthan. But frankly, I had no clue about Assam. And this is such a beautiful journey while doing the book for me and for the teachers and students that we learned so much about Assam. I actually thought this is a wonderful way of learning to appreciate the unity and diversity of our country. So, but yes, it was a challenge to find the information because there is so much that the internet talks about, and not all is correct. So we relied on all the government sites. That's where we accessed all the information from. And some cultural aspects could not be accessed on the government sites. So then we had access to certain travel blogs written by writers, travelers, which I knew since they don't have a commercial aspect and they're actually narrating their own journey and experiences. So there is always an authentic touch to it. So, and then of course to cross check, I was very fortunate. I had Dr. Rima Huja. She is director of Maharaj Sawai Man Singh II Museum Trust, and she happens to be a renowned historian. So she was able to corroborate a lot of facts for the book. And she also connected us to a professor in Assam who was able to corroborate and cross-check the facts which were connected to Assam. So
I can go on and on asking questions about this book. I think before I get to the audience and ask them to ask questions, I request them to ask questions. I'd also like to mention, this book has a beautiful message by Dharmendra Pradhan ji, right here. And he congratulates the author that, this is launched under Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. And also, how beautifully the author has put illustrations into it, and what wonderful way, the art forms which have been used for the illustrations are mentioned here. So it's a must read for everyone out here, and especially children. I think, you must ask your parents to pick this book up for you. So any questions from the audience, we'll be very happy to take. And else, I'll be very happy to ask Urvashi more questions. Oh, we have quite a few hands here.
Good afternoon, ma'am. If we prima facie look at the title of this book, it looks very obvious, the Camel with a Japi, Camel for Rajasthan and Japi for Assam. But I'm sure as an author, there must have been a lot of brainstorming behind this title. So I'm also in the process of writing a book, and I find it very difficult to come up with a title which can connect not just with the subject, but with the readers as well. So if you could please enlighten us all about the process of coming up with the title of a book.
So yes, there was a lot of brainstorming, and we all had pitched in our ideas about what the book should look like. And you're right, these are two very different things. It has to connect to the subject, and it's very important that a title has to be catchy enough to catch the eye of the reader also. So a lot of brainstorming did take place. We had identified a few and we had shortlisted it. And then as the story moved on, we were able to finally settle down and understand that this actually beautifully portrays the intermingling of the Rajasthani and the Assamese culture. So for us, this is what we came up with then. Thank you.
Okay, we have a lady in a blue sari and then this gentleman behind.
Hi, ma'am. I have a couple of questions, actually. What is your target reader? Who is your target reader? I mean, starting from what age? Because, I mean, I read children's books. They're a lot of fun. But what would you recommend? At what age should one pick this book up? As Apra also mentioned that it has an integration of a lot of subjects, including business studies. Yes. Which, I mean, I don't know if a 10-year-old would enjoy. So who do you recommend should pick up this book?
See, when you read the book, you have to read it like a regular story. One, if you're just picking it up to read it for entertainment, it's a good read. I mean, that's what I've been told. It's a good racy read.
I'm sure.
So I would say that, could you repeat your question?
At what age?
So age, yeah, 10 plus and above.
10 plus.
Yeah,
Excellent.
10 plus and above.
My second question is actually a clarification. Did you say that the artwork has been done by the art department at the Palace School?
Yes, the artwork has been done by the
Wonderful.
art department of the Palace School. They are
Wonderful.
here. If they could stand up, they're all here.
Thank you.
And they did a brilliant job. So it's not only the teachers, but even the students. They've also contributed their artwork. Even the alumni pitched in. So it was like a whole school coming in to create this work together.
Okay, this gentleman in the green t-shirt, yes. I think this side of the audience seems to be very, very interested.
Hello, ma'am. So everybody, when we talk about India, we say that unity in diversity is in India, right? But there are very less attempts to create that unity among that diversity has been done, and you have done one of that attempt. Congratulations to you. What do you think more attempts should be taken, and how much more attempts should be taken to create that unity in this diversity?
Very good question. And I think very, very important given the times that we are living in. That we are actually, while doing the book, I realized we are so fortunate to be living in a country which is so rich in every aspect, whether we talk of the historical aspect, the cultural aspect, anything you pick up, and we've been rich. And we've been rich since thousands of years. And there's so much our country has to offer. And unfortunately, we don't know so much about it. So the government's initiative of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat is one such step in this direction. So we took up an aspect, and this book was very well received at CBSE. The chairperson, Mr. Manoj Ahuja, and Secretary Education, Ms. Anita Karbal, we showed them the draft several times, and they were super excited because they knew it's going in the right way. And Ms. Karul was so happy with the book when it came up that she actually asked Sandeep sir to contact more schools. And she said, just why just one pair of states? You know, the other schools should pitch in and make such good work for all the other states. So I think this is happening at the school level. And this is where we need to capture the young ones, because their minds are like sponge and they will take in what we feed them with. So if at the school level, we are able to inculcate respect for the diversity that our country has, I'm sure when they grow up, they will not fall prey to any kind of dissidence in the country.
So true. I think Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat is an initiative which can be taken up by so many of us. You know, it's not only schools who are doing that job. It's not only children. You know, I think, you know, the moment we get everybody of us together, it's a beautiful thing, because that is how we see India. That is how we have lived. And that is how we want the future generations to live. So I think,
one more question, I think.
yeah, we have time for just one more question. This lady in a sari, if it could be a short one, please.
Good evening, everybody. I think it's a beautiful book. I've just gone through it casually. You spoke about subject integration of accountancy, business studies, but what about the little ones? I think the little ones will be really excited to pick up a book and read. So can we associate them with the children of the junior age group also?
Absolutely, absolutely. It can definitely go on. So this the work that I spoke of, the work of making competency-based questions, right now has started from grade 6 onwards, but we are definitely going to be connecting it for the little ones also. As I said, 10 years and above, this they can easily pick up the book, read and comprehend. And 10 years above means right from the children to adults, they can read it. And it can definitely connect for the little ones also, as for the subject part.
Superb. Okay, this gentleman has been really raising his hand. Please come on, have a quick question from you. This maroon, yes, you maroon jacket.
Good afternoon. So academic literature, whenever you write it, is a strict responsibility, especially when you're catering to young children. So, and the subject that you chose was about merging these different cultures of India into a unified. So every line that you write, therefore, becomes a responsibility as a writer. So how do you therefore go about the process of being conscious in your character development as well as your content delivery?
Superb question.
Good question. Yes, I was very mindful of the fact that what is coming in the book is actually has to be nothing but the truth, right? Because we cannot afford to give out any kind of information which is not true, because it's the young ones who are going to be reading it. So I was very mindful about the fact, and that's why I went about getting the facts corroborated with a lot of people like historians and professors from the University of Assam and from Rajasthan, so that we don't go wrong anywhere. So we did take care of that. And a lot of, if I've understood your question correctly, also mindful of the characterizations in the book, because this is what we want the children to learn and imbibe. So there are several characteristics that have come up which will help the children to also reflect upon their own self and imbibe some good values.
Superb. So that is the Camel with a Japi. The author is going to be right there. You could ask her many questions. Thank you so very much. You all were a wonderful audience.
Urvashi Warman, congratulations and thank you very much. And Apra Kuchhal, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for the brilliant questions and brilliant answers. Thank you. The last session, so sad for me. I don't know, for you guys. but it's really sad when it's the last session and we have to say goodbye to all of you. Before we do that, thank you to our sponsors, Dettol, protecting the festival, session partners.